Donald Trump cannot walk. That was the public sentiment after watching our cognitively and physically collapsing president scoot his way down the Air Force One stairs. And it was barely a scoot on a very disturbing landing of Air Force One that now has everyone talking about the president's health once again. And as we know, that drives him crazy. We are going to get into it all. Before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already, and you enjoy our channel and the fact that unlike the mainstream media, we actually call out Donald Trump's decline, to hit that subscribe button because it goes a long way in supporting our work. Now, before we get into Donald Trump unable to walk down these Air Force One steps on a disaster landing, I want to start with Lawrence O'Donnell breaking down how this is not just a one-time event, and now it's time for the mainstream media to actually cover Donald Trump's decline. Lawrence broke it down right here. It's very important context to start, and we now have a number for it: 39%. That is the measure of Donald Trump's physical decline since his first time in the White House. 39%. In an article published tonight by the New York Times, Katie Rogers and Dylan Freridman report under the headline, "Shorter Days, Signs of Fatigue. Trump Faces Realities of Aging in Office." The Times has documented the newly abbreviated schedule for the struggling 79-year-old man. Quote, "In 2017, the first year of his first term, Mr. Trump's scheduled events started at 10:31 a.m. on average. By contrast, Mr. Trump in his second term has started scheduled events in the afternoon on average at 12:08 p.m. His events end on average at around the same time as they did during the first year of his term, shortly after 5 p.m. The number of Mr. Trump's total official appearances has decreased by 39%, 39% less Donald Trump. That's what we're getting now. Donald Trump was the laziest president we had ever seen in his first term. He is now 39% lazier, and he is now apparently struggling with a 5-hour workday. And of course, none of us have seen him do anything that in any way meets the definition of work during those 5 hours. The Times reports Mr. Trump appeared to doze off during an event in the Oval Office, and so we are now covering the physical decline and fall of Donald Trump. Last night I mentioned Donald Trump's age a couple of times when I pointed out that you can see the 79-year-old man who gets very little sleep, bewildered about how he is losing his grip on the Republican Party. And there are people who are in full-blown dementia in their early 60s. We all age differently, and Donald Trump is aging just fine for someone who should be watching TV all day and playing golf occasionally. But he's aging terribly for a president. But Donald Trump at his best age would have been the stupidest president and most incompetent president in history, and the most corrupt. A younger Donald Trump is not a better Donald Trump. Everybody should be talking about this. I think that if Carolyn Levitt, as we will see in just a second, is freaking out and trying to cover something up, that is all the authorization you need to cover an issue even more. If Carolyn Levitt is saying, "Look over there, all is fine in the White House, but please stop, 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 do not talk about this," the mainstream media should feel emboldened rather than scared to talk about an issue. It's the same thing with the Epstein files, and every prediction that we have had about Donald Trump's cover-up has come true. Why would the same not be true of his health? Why would our predictions that there is some level of cognitive decline? It's very obvious. Maybe it's dementia. Maybe it's a medication that they're hiding from us. Why would that not fall in line with the predictions that we've made about the Epstein files? Again, just listen to Herc Panic, and it's all you need to know of why we should be talking about this more. Scott, thank you. The president's been spotted out and about a number of times with bandages on his hands. Could you please explain what that is about? Secondly, he noted on True Social the other day that he had aced 3 cognitive tests. Could you please clarify when those tests took place? I can do that at a later date. I obviously don't have that in front of me. The president has spoken about that. It is always a "we'll get back to you," or "it doesn't really matter," or "I've already said all that I need to say." It is never a straight answer from Carolyn Levitt. Again, that should be pushing people to want to cover this more, especially as the internet was all abuzz after Donald Trump's very, very iffy walk down some stairs on Air Force One. I'm surprised he didn't take the short steps, considering how confused and concerned he was about his own legs. But the public reaction, did Donald Trump walking? You'll see why. But let's check out this article first. Trump 79 called out for awkward exit on Air Force One steps. Donald Trump has fueled new speculation about his health after an awkward descent on Air Force One stairs. A video of the 79-year-old president exiting the plane at Palm Beach International Airport on Saturday morning, posted by MAGA influencers, has drawn attention online for Trump's odd hand movement and slow, careful descent. In the video, Trump appears at the aircraft door and slaps his right leg 3 times with his right hand before heading down the stairs. He cautiously navigates the steps while gripping tightly onto the railing, taking about 18 seconds to reach the bottom of the short staircase. He then plops into the Beast, the heavily armored presidential car, where he is seen, of course, drinking what appears to be Diet Coke. Trump is spending Christmas at Mar-a-Lago. Critics online were quick to note the president's apparent frailty and particular leg slapping. Tapping that leg to make sure it works going down, one ex-user commented. Another wrote, "I wish he concentrated on the economy like he concentrated on going down those stairs." One person hypothesized about his hand motions. It is not his leg he is touching, but he is trying to get life back into his hand. The elderly president's supporters defended him, however, with many pointing out that Trump had just wrapped up a long day, including a rally in Rocky Mount, North Carolina. Trump, who was filmed stumbling on Air Force One stairs during a visit to New Jersey in June this year, has frequently spoken about being very careful about walking downstairs to avoid the perils of his predecessor, Joe Biden. So yeah, as you can see, this was a slow descent. You see the hitting of the leg. You see Trump just wobbling and just like kind of bracing himself, unsure. This is not a very strong man, no matter what he wants you to say or believe or to think or what he tells Carolyn Levitt to go out there and spew every day. But this image, I think, is more important than just the fun that we're having. I'd also like to point out that it's interesting timing for Donald Trump's health to be something that the mainstream media finally gives a little bit of attention to at the same time as he puts his name on the Kennedy Center, because he didn't just put his name on the Kennedy Center. It now reads, and this is funny for how tragic and gross and shameful it is, the Donald Trump and John F. Kennedy Memorial. So Trump, his name shortly after Memorial, I'm going to be honest, guys, don't like his name on the Kennedy Center. I love that connection. I think maybe Memorial Trump past tense. Not horrible. I don't hate that idea. Keep having those Diet Cokes. Maybe switch to regular Coke. Is there a version of Coke where it's more fat and more like artery clogging? I probably shouldn't say that. I go through about 2 cans of Coke a day, and I have kidney stones chronically. So maybe I should look at my own health. Maybe I should revisit that as I'm clutching my right flank. I should think about myself, but I don't hate that. I don't hate the idea. I think it sounds pretty good. This is obviously a man who is very weak, though, and he is not just weak physically. He is weak politically. I think it's something that we should, as Democrats and, someone who talks about progressive politics all day, really play into. Donald Trump isn't just breaking his promises. He's not just unable to govern. He can't govern himself. It's like the Republican Party right now. Mike Johnson saying, "I haven't lost control of the House." One of the greatest admissions possible that you have lost control of the House is again the nail in the coffin of what we have seen for 4 years, almost, of this map of Congress. These people cannot govern themselves. They should not be in charge of anything. They don't know how to run government. They don't care to run government. They don't actually like it. That's what's so important. They love being the victims. They love, railing against the elites and the people in charge. They don't want the job. Donald Trump wants to play the victim. He wants to complain that everyone's after him. That is honestly all that he wants. So let's give it to him. Let's give him the minority. Let's get him out of the White House. Then he can really complain. I think that sounds like a perfect agreement. That picture of weakness, I think, is something that we should really distill into a lot of our messaging, that Donald Trump is not only not going to get stuff done for you because he doesn't care, and he's too busy focused on, the corruption or the planes or making sure Netanyahu is taken care of. As you know, we saw, don't even get me started, on Miriam Adelson, who already wrote Donald Trump a multi-million-dollar check for the last election, bribing him for an illegal third term, saying, "Wait, hey, we'll cut you another quarter, Billy," as Israelis saying, like, "Oh, we'll tamper in your election." Great. Don't love that. But I think we should talk about how Trump isn't just focused on himself, but he literally isn't strong enough to get anything done. He's getting steamrolled. He's getting played. His own party is falling apart. This is imagery and numbers, in fact, that are undeniable. I think Chris Hayes did a great job of breaking it down right here. Trump's political support and control over the Republican Party are eroding before our eyes. A new AP poll today has his approval rating at 36%, which matches what Gallup found last month. And when you start seeing approval ratings that start with the number 3, that is when things get very, very dire politically. That is usually the line at which panic starts to set in a little bit with your co-partisans. Now, for the record, that 36% is only 2 points higher than Trump's approval after January 6, 2021. So the president is clearly desperate to change the narrative, and he's taken the airwaves to cajole us all into not believing our lying eyes when it comes to, well, chiefly the cost of living. And on the same day that Trump desperately tries to right the ship, we got another illustration of just how much his political standing has eroded in just the last few months. Because today, 4 Republicans signed onto a Democratic discharge petition to force a House vote on a 3-year extension of insurance subsidies that are set to expire for tens of millions of Americans 2 weeks from today. And they did so in explicit defiance of both Republican Speaker of the House Mike Johnson and Donald Trump, who ultimately wields the power of the speakership functionally. Now, this has become something of an emerging pattern. You'll remember last month, Republicans joined with Democrats to force an ultimately successful vote to repeal a Trump executive order that tried to bust collective bargaining rights for some federal workers. That was a big deal. And of course, before that, there was the very notable discharge petition to force a vote on releasing the Epstein files, which Trump and Johnson lobbied aggressively against, right? Remember, they called Lauren Boebert into the Situation Room to turn the screws to no avail. It is undeniable. It is a man in cognitive and physical decline and political decline. He is completely falling apart. You know, we're going to talk about it every single day on this show. I suggest that Democrats do. Not only because I think it's good messaging, but also it's fun. It's fun to talk about it. And so we're going to on this show. If you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button, leave a like on this video. If you stuck around to the end, drop a blue heart in the comments. Happy holidays, y'all. Keep on fighting. Don't let them silence you. And until next time, I'll see you.